Hey, come on in.
Can I ask you some questions about your first 6 months in Rome?
Of course, let's get started.
You've been traveling a lot lately. What are some of the things that you've done on your most recent trips?
Well, the last few months I've been to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, to Bangladesh, to the Chad-Sudan border. Our goal on these trips is to help with the diplomacy that delivers life-saving aid to those who are most in need. We're working with the World Food Program, the Food and Agriculture Organization, the other UN agencies that are trying to get food and assistance to those in desperate need, often on the brink of famine. But that's not enough. We can't just work to deal with the emergencies of today. We also have to try to build resilience for the future. So that's why we also work with farmers around the world to help them improve their techniques, improve their access to inputs, seeds, their soil quality, find a way so that they can build food security for themselves, their families, and their communities.
Over the last 6 months, you've met with many of your counterparts. What do you think you've all accomplished together so far?
Well, diplomacy is about reacting in real time to events that happen. And right now, the humanitarian crisis that deserves the most attention and is most serious is in Sudan. And we've been working around the clock with diplomats from all over the world to try to get aid to those in need there. It's not often in the headlines, but there are more people on the brink of famine in Sudan than anywhere else in the world. That means breaking through blocked border crossings, getting the warring parties to allow trucks to come in to help those in need, getting seeds in the hands of farmers so that they could plant before the summer rains came. That's the kind of work that we've been doing day in and day out. So whether it's in Burma, in Ukraine, elsewhere around the world, our efforts are focused on helping those most in need and making sure that the UN has what it needs to be able to respond in real time.
Ambassador, you just came back from New York City, where you attended the UN General Assembly High Level Week. What were some of the highlights for you?
Well, look, UN General Assembly High Level Week is when world leaders come from all over to try to work on today's toughest challenges and plot a path for the future. President Biden welcomed leaders by telling them a very simple message: to keep the faith, to find a way to not give up, and to keep working on addressing some of the toughest problems that we face around the world. That involves conflict, that involves dealing with climate stresses and extreme weather, that involves overcoming the lingering effects of the pandemic. The United States announced more than $2.1 billion in additional assistance to help people in need right now. But I attended meetings with entrepreneurs, with food security experts, with leading chefs to get together around a table and think about how are we going to feed the world in the future? How are we going to do it in a way that's sustainable? How can we make sure that the planet can take care of itself in the years to come? That's what those meetings were all about, and I think we made some progress.
How about a fun question? What's the coolest place that you visited in Italy?
Well, it's a real privilege to be able to work here in Rome, in Italy, and that Italy is willing to host UN agencies very generously here. Not long ago, I got to go to Herculaneum down near Naples. And that's a place where an organization called ICRAM that we work with tries to preserve cultural heritage around the world. And in this project, between an American foundation, the Italian government, and ICRAM, we're trying to protect and preserve one of ancient Rome's most spectacular sites, not only for visitors today, but for future generations. In the same way, on the same trip, we did $1 million grant to Ukraine through ICRAM to work on projects to preserve their own cultural heritage, even in the middle of Russia's brutal invasion. It's an example of how we can work together, even in very trying circumstances, to try to preserve culture for the future.
Ambassador, one last question. What are your hopes for the next 6 months?
Well, look, the hard fact is more than 700 million people are still going to bed hungry every single night around the world. That's the challenge that we have to stay focused on. At a moment of extreme stress in the climate, at a moment where the world is facing conflict and other challenges, we're going to have to pull together if we want to overcome those challenges, feed the world, and do so in a sustainable way. That's what we're working on day in and day out. That's what we can't lose hope on. We've got to keep the faith. We've got to keep moving. And that's the kind of relentless diplomacy that we'll keep doing here day in and day out. And with that, I've got to get back to work.